Mr. Alberto Mazzoni, President of UNIDROIT Governing Council, Mr. Jose Faria, Secretary General of UNIDROIT, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to inaugurate this special event dedicated to the celebration of the 90th anniversary of the foundation of the International Institute for Unification of Private Law, UNIDROIT. It is also a great honor to chair the General Assembly of this important moment in the history of UNIDROIT. Egypt has a very remarkable history in UNIDROIT. Egypt was the first African nation to ratify UNIDROIT status on the 22nd of November 1951 and has chaired the General Assembly 3 times in 1999, 2004, and 2016. The Egyptian legal history is the oldest in the Middle East and Africa. It was initially modeled on the French civil code system, but later developed its own legal principles and structures. The system has greatly influenced the legal system of many other Middle Eastern countries. Many civil codes of other Arab countries are closely modeled on the Egyptian civil code. Egyptian jurists are also influential in most Arab countries. With all its legal experience, Egypt stands ready to further deepen its cooperation with UNIDROIT. Distinguished delegates, the 90th anniversary celebration of the UNIDROIT comes at an important juncture of history. Only a few months after the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, we believe that the Institute can contribute significantly to the Agenda 2030, especially Goal 16, through the promotion of the rule of law. There is a strong interrelationship between the role of law, strong institutions, and development. They are mutually reinforcing, making it essential for the sustainable development at the national and international level. In its 90 years' work, the UNIDROIT has significantly contributed to the international efforts to harmonize and modernize international contract law. It has supported the development of international private law through studies and drafts which have resulted in international instruments, including international conventions, model law, principles, and legal and contractual guides. This has significantly supported the modernization, harmonization, and coordination of private and, in particular, commercial law between states to formulate uniform law instruments, principles, and rules. The UNIDROIT has expanded its work in areas such as rail protocol, additional protocols to Cape Town Convention in agricultural equipment, maritime transport, and power generation, in addition to contracting farming. This of particular importance to developing countries, where these legal instruments can promote economic stability, support national industrialization programs, foreign direct investment, in addition to encouraging developed countries to cooperate in sharing knowledge, know-how, and equipment with and providing financing to developing countries. One area of increasing importance is contract farming, where it can support national efforts to achieve food security, improved nutrition and agricultural development, given that these contracts would reflect acceptable standards in fairness and transparency to ensure that farmers benefit from predictable markets and access to better technologies and know-how. UNIDROIT's work has also served as the basis of a number of international instruments adopted under the auspices of other international organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that there are areas for improved engagement of UNIDROIT in supporting the harmonization of private law instruments. This includes studying the interaction between public law and private law and its effects to contract law, international arbitration, and the promotion of knowledge of the UNIDROIT instruments which can go parallel to the drawing up of new laws. Before I conclude, I would like to express my appreciation for all the members of the General Assembly who have unanimously elected Egypt as a chairperson of the General Assembly in 2016. Thank you very much. Now, I give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Bernardini, the Acting Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary General, His Eminence Cardinal Parolin, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me extend my most sincere congratulations for this important anniversary. It's a true honor for me to be here today in representation of the Italian Minister for Foreign Affairs and of the Government of Italy. I would like also to extend my warm greetings to all participants in this event. Compared to 90 years ago, when the League of Nations set up UNIDROIT, the world has undergone radical changes. However, the interdependence within the modern and the multifaceted international community of today, of which transnational trade is one of the main drivers, has created an even greater demand for legal certainty to allow societies to grow and prosper. Globalization must be underpinned by solid rules and principles that create a mutual legal understanding. Without a sound foundation, globalization is bound to create distortion and disorder. Allow me also to oppose the narrative that confines any debate on legal instruments to the world of academia. Sure, the elaboration of principles and rules can at first glance appear intimately academic in its nature. But let us not, for any reason, underestimate the immense potential of those principles and rules to impact our trade relations, our investments, our economies, and our lives. Harmonizing rules, creating a shared legal ground, and establishing a common practice tear down many intangible barriers that inhibit investment. They can foster new commercial relations and facilitate networking. It is that potential which harmonized rules unlock that we, governments and private sector alike, should all have a stake in, and in this respect, I praise UNIDROIT's 90-year-old success story. But the scope of UNIDROIT spans well beyond trade and commercial law, strictly speaking. Let me take this opportunity to praise the contribution by UNIDROIT in two crucial sectors in the world today, namely the protection of cultural heritage and sustainable development. In 1995, UNIDROIT worked with UNESCO to develop an international convention on stolen and illegally exported cultural objects, which complemented and modernized UNESCO's own 97 convention. It is a remarkable international instrument which in many ways has set the standard for the protection of cultural property. It envisages a set of rules by which states commit to uniform treatment for restitution of stolen or illegally exported cultural objects and allow restitution claims to be processed directly through national courts. The 1995 Convention was also, in some way, a legal breakthrough. It placed for the first time the burden of proof on the holder of allegedly stolen or illegally exported cultural property. The legacy of the 1995 Convention in today's unfortunate Daesh-related widespread smuggling of cultural objects is extraordinary. The Convention is, rightly so, identified as one of the key legal reference documents in the follow-up for the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 2199. UNESCO and other organizations involved also constantly draw from the guiding principle enshrined in the 1995 Convention. Another very significant contribution by UNIDROIT in the past year was the publication of the legal guide on contract farming. Inspired by the previous publication on UNIDROIT principle of international commercial contracts, the legal guide was a common endeavor with the FAO and IFAD and incorporated crucial ideas such as the principle for responsible investment in agriculture and food systems, approved in 2014 by the Committee on World Food Security. Again, the legal profile of the analysis of the legal guide merely provides a context for a much broader effort to provide guiding principles for public governance in the field of sustainable agriculture development and to facilitate the elaboration of terms of reference by bilateral, multilateral, or non-governmental development agencies with programs in contract farming in the developing world. In line with the experience of Expo 2015, the relevance of practical tools for enhancing the implementation of the development agenda in the field of agriculture is evident. I've only touched on those specific projects because they represent a priority of today's agenda and testify the ability of UNIDROIT to adapt to the rapidly changing legal environment, but there are, of course, many other initiatives which equally deserve praise. Italy is fully committed to support UNIDROIT, and the cooperation between my government and the Institute is long-standing, because Italy truly believes in the global outreach of private international law and that creating the right legal environment is a strategic policy choice. We also regard UNIDROIT as being in a uniquely strategic position to stimulate and influence the debate on crucial issues in today's agenda alongside other bodies. I mentioned UNESCO, FAO, and IFAD before, but there are many, of course, ongoing collaborations with the European Union, UNODC, the Hague Conference on International Private Law, and the American Law Institute, to name a few. We are proud to be among the top contributors to UNIDROIT, and by virtue of its statute, appoints the President of the Governing Council. Let me commend on this occasion the brilliant achievements of Professor Mazzoni, who has recently been confirmed for another mandate. These are just examples that demonstrate our firm support and commitment to UNIDROIT, and we look forward to continuing and strengthening our cooperation. Not many endeavors stand the test of time. The fact that today we are celebrating the anniversary of an organization that was founded 90 years ago demonstrates the soundness of the aim and of the management of UNIDROIT. We can confidently look forward to a bright future. Thank you very much for your attention.
I thank Ambassador Bernardini, the Acting Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, for his valuable contribution. And now I give the floor to His Eminence Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Secretary of State of the Holy See. You have the floor, sir.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, Ambassadeur Bernardini, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est pour moi une joie particulière que de participer à cette session spéciale de l'Assemblée générale de l'Institut UNIDROIT à l'occasion du 90e anniversaire de sa fondation. Au nom de sa sainteté, le pape François, je vous adresse à tous un salut cordial. Et je remercie le secrétaire général de m'avoir très aimablement invité à vous exprimer ces quelques mots au début de votre travail. Depuis sa création comme organe auxiliaire de la Société des Nations en 1926 et sa reconstitution en 1940, l'Institut international pour l'unification du droit privé a multiplié les initiatives en vue de l'élaboration d'instruments de droit qui puissent contribuer à renouveler les droits privés en l'unifiant à l'échelle internationale. Au nom du Saint-Siège, je voudrais de nouveau saluer la noblesse de ces projets qui rapprochent au sein d'une œuvre commune des pays de tous les continents représentant des systèmes juridiques, économiques et politiques, ainsi que des traditions culturelles dont la diversité fait la richesse et est propice à un approfondissement de la réflexion commune. Nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui pour rendre hommage à tous ceux qui ont participé à l'œuvre accomplie à travers l'UNIDROIT durant ces 90 années, qui furent 9 décennies d'un dialogue nourri dans les domaines spécifiques du droit privé. La multiplicité et la qualité des contacts établis au-delà des frontières pour la recherche de solutions communes auront indéniablement contribué à nourrir des rapports d'entente et d'amitié entre les pays membres d'UNIDROIT, en même temps qu'ils auront accompagné le développement des échanges internationaux qui ont transformé notre environnement aujourd'hui mondialisé. Parmi les fruits de cette heureuse collaboration, je relèverai en particulier les nombreuses conventions adoptées dans le domaine des échanges internationaux, mais aussi d'autres instruments de référence, tels que les principes d'UNIDROIT relatifs au contrat du commerce international, dont l'impact dans les paysages juridiques contemporains et l'influence auront certainement aidé à la facilitation des échanges internationaux, au renforcement de la sécurité juridique, ainsi qu'à la construction et à la consolidation des systèmes de droits nationaux, en particulier dans les économies émergentes ou les régions en développement. Je voudrais aussi évoquer les efforts qui se poursuivent en faveur de la protection et de la conservation des biens culturels qui représentent un patrimoine considérable pour toute l'humanité et constituent une marque visible de la culture qui demeure un socle essentiel à toute civilisation. De nombreuses autres initiatives ont été lancées par l'UNIDROIT et participent à son rayonnement et son prestige. Il est difficile de toutes les énumérer ici, mais je mentionnerai entre autres les services offerts par sa bibliothèque à Rome, ses publications spécialisées, son programme de coopération juridique, l'organisation par l'Institut des congrès, rencontres et séminaires, et également les projets pour l'établissement d'une base de données de droit uniforme. Au regard de toutes les actions déjà entreprises et encore à poursuivre, je souhaiterais tirer un point d'honneur à l'attention portée à la partie la plus faible, à la protection de la partie la moins avantagée ou des personnes qui sont dans le besoin, comme l'étranger, les migrants, l'apatride, afin que les solutions formulées ou encore à formuler tendent véritablement vers cette justice sociale encore trop souvent entravée par des jeux économiques aveugles. À ce propos, j'aimerais relever en particulier l'appel à la protection des personnes, de leurs droits innés et à la simplification juridique déjà formulée par le pape Pie XII en 1950, 5 ans après que les Saint-Sièges aient été invités à rejoindre l'organisation comme membre pour apporter une contribution efficace, étant donné l'intérêt soutenu qu'il a toujours manifesté pour les échanges internationaux de caractère intellectuel, également entendu comme moyen de renforcement de la compréhension mutuelle et des liens entre les États. Je voudrais aussi souligner l'appel du pape Paul VI dans son encyclique Populorum Progressio à un développement solidaire de l'humanité, qui constitue, je cite, les nouveaux noms de la paix. Enfin, je souhaite rendre un vibrant hommage à toute l'œuvre bâtie par UNIDROIT et renouveler cet appel à utiliser inlassablement tous les moyens à notre disposition pour diffuser dans le monde entier ce message universel de paix, d'harmonie et de concorde. Le pape, dans son encyclique Laudato Si, exprime cet appel universel de manière concrète lorsqu'il précise que l'amour, fait de petits gestes d'attention mutuelle, est aussi civil et politique, et il se manifeste dans toutes les actions qui essaient de construire un monde meilleur. Car de fait, l'amour de la société et l'engagement pour le bien commun sont une forme excellente de charité qui non seulement concerne les relations entre les individus, mais aussi les macro-relations, c'est-à-dire les rapports sociaux, économiques, politiques. Sur ces mots, je vous souhaite à vous, Messieurs les Présidents, Messieurs les Secrétaires généraux, Mesdames et Messieurs, de fructueuses célébrations et vous remercie de votre attention.
I would like to thank His Eminence Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Secretary of State of the Holy See, for his very valuable contribution. And now I give the floor to Mr. Alberto Mazzoni, President of UNIDROIT Governing Council. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. President, Ambassador Bernardini, Acting Secretary General of the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Your Eminence Cardinal Parolin, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, and representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, in my capacity as President of the UNIDROIT Governing Council, I have the honor and pleasure to welcome you to this special session of the General Assembly of the Institute, in which we celebrate the 90th anniversary of its foundation. A person's 90th birthday probably invites reflections on the experience and wisdom accumulated over the years. And the birthday party might well be surrounded by a subtle melancholy due to the inevitable near end. It is not, however, the feeling that this anniversary evokes in UNIDROIT. Far from perceiving itself as a venerable ancient, UNIDROIT is obliged and happy to feel rather the vigor and generosity of the youth still in need of its untouched reservoir of energy to carry out the major tasks entrusted to it and to face the challenges that they pose. Born in the 20s of the past century, the age when positivism, as well as a strong desire to legal universalism, marked the minds of the best lawyers, UNIDROIT had, from the start, to combine utopia and realism in its mission. The utopia was the vision it shared with the first major comparative law scholars, such as Saleh and Lambert, as well as the great Romanists, such as Vittorio Scialoia and Pietro Francesci, respectively former President and Secretary General of the Institute. It was utopia based on the premise that, in essence, the law is above all ratio scripta, that is to say, written reason that constitutes the common heritage underlying all developed legal systems. Hence, the possibility, in particular through comparative law, to cause the positive law of different nation states to evolve towards a unified or harmonized private law at universal level. Realism, in turn, suggested not to rely solely on a spontaneous process of cultural rapprochement, promoted and supported exclusively by the osmosis effects of comparative law. The drive towards universalism was to be assisted, guided, and assured through the establishment of ad hoc international institutions, resulting from formalized intergovernmental cooperation. These are the essential features of the vision, both utopian and realistic, in which the Institute is steeped from birth. Time goes by, and the means and methods that UNIDROIT has used to fulfill its task have certainly undergone many profound changes. The original spirit, however, is still there, and is the result of what I may call the intrinsic cultural youth of the Institute, a youth that is the best guarantee of freshness and vigor in the search for solutions that best suit the complexity of contemporary challenges. On the one hand, the emergence of many new economic powers and the overall rise in the levels of economic development and standards of living, far from diminishing the interest for uniform legal standards internationally, actually accentuates the need for them and increases at the same time the demand for truly universal solutions. In particular, the fulfillment of UNIDROIT's universal mission requires today that we continue the process of freeing the instruments developed by the Institute of a certain cultural dependency that in the past may have induced lawyers to look nearly exclusively for inspiration in developed Western legal systems. In practice, this means greater sensitivity to developing countries' aims of full and equitable participation in international trade and sustainable growth. On the other hand, experience has taught us that realism should dictate the choice of subjects and methods to which UNIDROIT can address itself and devote its modest, unfortunate resources. Therefore, as regards the subjects, we examine not only traditional commercial and financial operations of the types practiced in more sophisticated markets, in countries with solidly established legal traditions, but we also look at topics with a development component, such as the modernization of private law in the field of agriculture. As regards the methods of work, we no longer focus on the classic instrument of the International Convention, but give increasing attention to soft law instruments, including principles, model laws, and legal guides, as well as generally any other type of non-binding instrument capable on a realistic project-by-project assessment to ensure a desirable or acceptable solution in terms of actual effectiveness. The program of this day of celebration will confirm, I am sure, the role and function that our Institute, renewing itself while remaining true to its original mission, is called upon to perform in the coming years. I wish you all a fruitful day of discussion and hope to see you all again at the centenary celebration. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Alberto Mazzoni, President of UNIDROIT Governing Council, for his valuable contribution. And now I give the floor to Mr. José Faria, Secretary General of UNIDROIT. You have the floor, sir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale, Monsieur le représentant du ministre aux Affaires étrangères et de la coopération, Monsieur le cardinal secrétaire d'État, Monsieur le Président du Conseil de direction, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du corps diplomatique et représentants des organisations internationales, Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom du secrétariat de l'organisation que j'ai le privilège de servir, je tiens à vous remercier de votre participation à cette séance spéciale de célébration du 90e anniversaire de sa fondation. La présence de nombreux représentants de nos États membres et de plusieurs États non encore membres d'UNIDROIT aurait dépassé notre capacité d'accueil dans nos propres locaux. Nous sommes donc reconnaissants à l'Association bancaire italienne de nous avoir généreusement accueillis dans cette magnifique salle dont le décor nous évoque aussi le siège d'UNIDROIT. En effet, l'allégorie de la clémence, dessus nous, fait allusion au pape Clément X, tandis que le siège d'UNIDROIT fut propriété d'un autre Clément, le 8e pontife de ce nom, dont la famille donna son nom à la villa Aldobrandini, au siège UNIDROIT. Mesdames et messieurs, l'âge vénérable de ce lieu dépasse certes celui de l'Institut dont nous célébrons aujourd'hui la fondation. 90 ans ne représentent guère qu'un court instant dans cette millénaire ville de Rome. Néanmoins, 90 ans constituent un succès remarquable dans l'univers des organisations internationales et font d'UNIDROIT l'une des plus anciennes au monde. UNIDROIT a été formellement constitué suite à l'acceptation par le Conseil de la Société des Nations le 20 avril 1926 de l'offre généreuse du gouvernement italien pour qu'elle vienne s'installer à Rome et s'est mis à l'œuvre bientôt, jetant les bases de travaux à venir ambitieux dont la transcendance allait se faire sentir jusqu'à nos jours dans l'évolution du programme de travail d'UNIDROIT lui-même, mais aussi dans un certain nombre d'activités d'autres organisations. L'intérêt du gouvernement italien pour l'œuvre d'UNIDROIT a sauvé l'Institut du destin de la Société des Nations, tout en préservant sa personnalité juridique et son indépendance sous l'égide d'un nouveau statut en vigueur depuis 1940. Monsieur le Président, Votre Éminence, Vos Excellences, l'histoire d'UNIDROIT est depuis marquée par la progressive mais constante expansion de sa représentation géographique, laquelle, à l'origine majoritairement européenne, s'étend aujourd'hui aux 5 continents et embrasse toutes les grandes traditions juridiques, religieuses et culturelles de pays à divers stades de développement économique. Cette histoire est aussi marquée par un effort constant de coopération avec d'autres organisations internationales, par l'ouverture vers la communauté académique et par les sensibilités aux besoins des institutions représentatives de la société civile et des agents économiques. Ces 3 lignes directrices ont contribué à garantir la qualité du travail de l'Institut, l'opportunité de ces initiatives et l'utilité des solutions par lui proposées. UNIDROIT a réalisé sa mission par la préparation et l'adoption d'un grand nombre d'importantes conventions internationales, principes de droit, guides juridiques et autres instruments dont le rôle dans l'évolution du droit privé du XXe siècle est largement reconnu. La célébration de son jubilé nous inviterait peut-être à souligner l'importance de l'un ou l'autre de ces instruments. Je résiste pourtant à cette tentation et vous épargne ce qui serait une longue rétrospective. Saint Augustin, dans le chapitre de confession dédié au temps, nous rappelle cette donnée si élémentaire que pertinente, que si rien ne passait, il n'y aurait point des temps passés, que si rien n'advenait, il n'y aurait point des temps à venir. Or, plutôt que dans le seul esprit de célébration du passé, nous avons pour la journée d'aujourd'hui conçu un programme axé sur la certitude de l'avenir de notre organisation. Dans un monde qui connaît une intégration et interdépendance croissante, l'éventail des matières et des problèmes qui appellent une régulation ou une solution à l'échelle mondiale ne cesse de s'élargir. Dans ce contexte, l'œuvre d'harmonisation du droit privé revêt 2 nouvelles dimensions dont le plein potentiel reste encore à explorer. D'une part, le droit privé apparaît comme un instrument important, voire même indispensable, d'exécution de certains objectifs de la communauté internationale. D'autre part, le droit privé est de plus en plus appelé à jouer un rôle crucial dans la mise en place des conditions nécessaires à l'investissement et à la production dans le cadre d'un développement durable et de la promotion de meilleures conditions de vie dans tous les pays. Les orateurs qui nous ont honorés de leur présence durant cette journée auront, Monsieur le Président, l'occasion de nous présenter des exemples concrets de ces nouvelles avenues qui s'ouvrent à l'organisation dont nous célébrons aujourd'hui le jubilé. Je vous souhaite une fructueuse journée de célébration et de réflexion et vous remercie de votre attention.
I thank the Secretary General of UNIDROIT for his excellent intervention, and now we will open the floor for member states, and I urge each speaker to be very short, only 3 minutes each. because of time constraints. So I will start by giving the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Canada. You have the floor, sir, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will certainly honor your request on time. It's a pleasure for me to be here with other representatives from member states, UNIDROIT employees, and friends of the Institute more generally to celebrate UNIDROIT's 90th anniversary. So thank you for extending the invitation to me. A celebration like this one is a great opportunity to recognize the contributions over the years of the members of the Secretariat, jurists, and international legal community who have contributed to making UNIDROIT the great organization it is today. While I am perhaps less familiar with UNIDROIT and its work than some of you here, from reviewing its recent activities and hearing from those directly involved in its work, I understand that it is a small but dynamic organization. UNIDROIT continues to show leadership with respect to some of the issues it is willing to tackle, and for that it is to be congratulated. The legal guide on contract farming is an example of a decision to tackle issues outside the traditional sphere of UNIDROIT's expertise that has led to the adoption of a highly relevant product. The guide as a tool and reference point for a broad range of users involved in contract farming practices contributes to the creation of a favorable, equitable, and sustainable environment for all participants. UNIDROIT remains relevant in a changing world, which is one of the most difficult challenges faced today by international organizations. At the same time, it does not hesitate to coordinate work with other international organizations and to take into account input from stakeholders. From Canada's perspective, this approach is not only sensible and positive, but ensures the work product is continuously responsive to the needs of governments, businesses, and civil society. Again, UNIDROIT should be congratulated for this. You can be assured, Mr. Secretary General, of Canada's continued commitment to the Institute and to the work in the future. I also wish to thank you personally, Mr. Secretary General, for the exceptional contribution you have made to UNIDROIT. Merci beaucoup.
I thank the distinguished Ambassador of Canada, and now I give the floor to the distinguished Ambassador of Portugal. Portugal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. On behalf of the Portuguese government, I would like to congratulate UNIDROIT on its 90th anniversary and to thank all those who have made UNIDROIT's achievement possible and helped us reach today's milestone. Such longevity bears testimony to the importance and relevance of the organization's work. Portugal is particularly proud to be a member of UNIDROIT since 1949 and to have been, for the last 90 years, an active supporter of its mandate as an independent international organization. As such, UNIDROIT plays a key role in serving the needs of its member states in the field of private international law by identifying methods and formulating uniform law instruments, principles, and rules aiming to harmonize private and commercial law. One of the most interesting features of UNIDROIT is that it brings together representatives of member states spanning 5 continents and representing a variety of legal, economic, and political systems, as well as different cultural backgrounds. This commemoration provides an opportunity to pay a fitting tribute to all present and past members of the UNIDROIT Governing Council. In the Portuguese case, in particular, we would like to pay homage to the memory of Professor Isabel Magalhães Colasso, the first Portuguese woman to obtain a PhD law in 1954, by remembering her significant contribution to the organization's accomplishment. We highlight the role of UNIDROIT nowadays in tackling the challenges of new technologies and commercial practices that require constant efforts to implement new approaches and policies. To enhance awareness of the importance of private law in the pursuit of sustainable development, we need to continue studying and elaborating modern commercial law instruments. Portugal strongly believes that UNIDROIT contributes considerably to development of the economies of its member states, notably in the field of international commercial contracts and transactions and transnational and connected capital markets. The fast evolution in international relations requires a constant review of private law of states as well as of group of states in the light of the new commercial contexts. As regards private law and social development too, the strengthening of synergies between UNIDROIT and other international organizations, such as FAO, IFAD, in the field of agriculture, shows that the organization is capable of meeting the needs and providing a true added value through its action instruments. Portugal believes that UNIDROIT is seen as being capable of responding to the new challenges of regional integration and varying speed and with different objectives. The organization's worldwide membership and its expertise in analyzing the legal implications enable it to build solid bridges between regions. Portugal views its relationship and the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law as mutual benefiting and active participation in the work of UNIDROIT enables Portugal to disseminate thought and legal practice, the Portugal language, mainly technical and legal language, and to contribute to the progressive affirmation of our language in multilateral forums in turn. UNIDROIT benefits from greater intensity of thought and Portuguese legal practice in the field of private law. We also would like to take this opportunity to commend the Secretariat for its excellent work in managing effectively the organization with the available resources. Finally, we express our gratitude and congratulations to all members, researchers, scholars, and to all UNIDROIT staff for their work and efforts, as without them it would be impossible for the organization to successfully continue to fulfill its goal in the near future. Last but not the least, we would like to encourage UNIDROIT to embark on an exercise of progressive development of harmonized and uniform rules of private law whenever necessary to address new trends of contemporary international relations in the field of private law. Today, this wording reflects the 1920s dream of a peaceful and united world, united through uniform law. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. I give the floor now to the distinguished representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the outset, allow me to join offering participating governments on behalf of the government of the Republic of Indonesia to congratulate the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law, UNIDROIT, to celebrate its 90th anniversary. I would like also to take this opportunity to commend the Italian government on its commitment for the continuing support given to UNIDROIT and to offer and to other participating governments dealing with the issues of private law. Having established for almost a century, UNIDROIT has proven its merit and has been important to study the needs and methods of modernizing, harmonizing, and coordinating private and particular commercial law as between states and groups of states to formulate uniform law instruments, principles, and rules to achieve those objectives. Many countries have benefited from the result of the UNIDROIT work within its role and existence in the global world. International organizations which deals with many global policy and regulation issues have also recognized its important role. Indonesia, in this matter, continues to support to the work done by UNIDROIT. Mr. Chairman, Indonesia acceded to UNIDROIT on 7 October 2008 and entry into the force on 1st January 2009 after its formal notification through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Italian Republic. As an emerging economy, Indonesia views the importance UNIDROIT, in particular in its role and functions, to lex mercatoria, or commonly known as the laws of UNIDROIT. As a country which suffered severely during the monetary and economic crisis back in 1998, Indonesia's economy plunged drastically. Indonesia invested in many efforts to its rapid economic recovery. Indonesia's active participation in international trade was considered as one of the answers to outcome the situation. During the 2008 global financial crisis, Indonesia was one of the few countries in the world who is able to record a consistent growth rate. Indonesia's economy in the recent years has shown a positive and stable growth. This condition was roughly influenced by, among others, the high domestic consumption of the countries by its population. Again, active participation in the international trade was considered the answer to unravel this too helpless situation. UNIDROIT's work has proven was of importance to Indonesia in achieving its objective in international trade. Mr. Chairman, as a country being very active in international trade, Indonesia follows the UNIDROIT principles of international commercial context, or referred to as the UNIDROIT Principles 2010, which contains new provisions on restitution in case of failed contracts, illegally condition and plurality of obligors and obligees. Along with the 1980 Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods, the UNIDROIT Principles of 2010 is an important international legal instrument for Indonesia. It is international trade practices. I am confident that UNIDROIT is able to continue its remarkable work to harmonize and unify private law between states, and in turn further promote the good relationship between Indonesia and UNIDROIT for the benefit of both parties. Mr. Chairman, last but not least, allow me to once again congratulate you and through you on the 90th anniversary of UNIDROIT, and wishing its continued success in the global legal development, in particular and international private law. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Indonesia, and now I give the floor to the distinguished ambassador of Brazil.
Distinguished Chairman of the UNIDROIT General Assembly, Ambassador Kamal Helni, Distinguished President of UNIDROIT Governing Council, Mr. Alberto Mazzoni, Distinguished Secretary General of UNIDROIT, Mr. José Ângelo Estrela Faria, dear colleagues, heads of diplomatic missions in Rome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to be representing Brazil on the occasion of the 90th anniversary of UNIDROIT. As you all know, UNIDROIT stands out on the international scene as the only organization devoted specifically to the harmonization of private and commercial law between states and groups of states. Moreover, UNIDROIT, which was born as a European initiative, has undoubtedly become a much broader institution with 63 member states. It has significantly contributed to bringing nations together by facilitating their commercial, economic, and overall interactions. Brazil's historic collaboration for the unification of international private law started before the creation of UNIDROIT. Brazil has actively participated in the Pan-American movement for legal standardization since the 19th century. The Bustamante Code, adopted during the 60th Pan-American Conference in Havana in 1928, was at that time one of the world's biggest attempts to promote unification of international private law. Nowadays, Brazil continues to follow and support the efforts of the Inter-American conferences specialized in private international law. Brazil has been participating in UNIDROIT since its creation. At its opening session, only 2 Latin American countries were represented. Brazil was one of them. During the session, the Brazilian diplomat Raul Fernandes, who would later become Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, was appointed member of the UNIDROIT board in its first composition. After a period of absence from the Institute, Brazil returned to it in 1993. Since then, we have ratified 2 documents of great importance to Brazil: the Convention of Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects, and the Convention on International Interests on Mobile Equipment, and its protocol on matters specific to aircraft equipment. In addition to this, Brazil has been closely following the current discussions on emerging markets, long-term contracts, contract farming, among other subjects. The Brazilian participation in UNIDROIT has significantly contributed to the evolution of legal sciences in the country. Several studies on private international law are the outcome of discussions held in the midst of the Institute. It has also favored a more fluid insertion of Brazil in the discussions of the great issues of commercial and private international law, which is fundamental for economic and social development. Since 2008, Brazil has been delighted to have one of its eminent citizens, Mr. José Ângelo Estrela Faria, as UNIDROIT's Secretary General. Mr. Estrela Faria, who is the first non-European national to hold this position, has been competently and skillfully running the Institute, having therefore been re-elected for a second term. Ladies and gentlemen, in the light of the rich relationship between Brazil and UNIDROIT from the beginning of the organization, I would like to recall the words of the great Brazilian jurist and former legal advisor of the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Clóvis Bevilacqua. Having been consulted in the 1920s about the convenience for Brazil to become a member of UNIDROIT, Bevilacqua argued on his report that, and I quote, "If humanity tends inevitably towards unity by means of civilization, if the structure of society in its general framework is the same whatever man settles, if history demonstrates the possibility to implement legal adaptations broadly or on smaller scale, if all that is true, it seems that by promoting the unification of private law, we are working in favor of civilization." Thank you very much.
Thank the distinguished Ambassador of Brazil, and now I give the floor to the representative of Switzerland.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for me to be invited to address this distinguished assembly. As a founding member of Switzerland, we are particularly delighted to congratulate the Institute on its 90th year of establishment. Even more, we would like to congratulate UNIDROIT's members on this important anniversary, and we would like to thank its members, and most of all, the government and the distinguished High Representative of the host country for their continued support to the institution. Switzerland would also like to address and express its particular gratitude to the Secretary General of UNIDROIT for the vision and acumen with which he has been leading and leads the Institute's undertakings, and we would also like to thank his team at the Secretariat for the tireless efforts they devote to its operations and everyday work. Little can be added to what my distinguished previous speakers have said on UNIDROIT's history, its accomplishments, its present-day challenges, and the promises of the future. The academic program prepared for today is a fantastic display of the wide array of issues on which work may need to be considered. So we would like to be brief. In Switzerland, UNIDROIT's work enjoys highest recognition by lawmakers, by courts, by practitioners, and in academia. And with its double-digit share in the global market for international arbitration, we should also point to the particular role UNIDROIT instruments have played in international arbitration. And this recognition is a testimony of the Institute's tremendous fingerprint on the world of private law. UNIDROIT has helped states cooperate in the field of private law and beyond. Today, the number of rulemaking and standard-setting bodies has multiplied, and hence it is now up to states to ensure that these fora cooperate in the context of heightened scrutiny of public budgets. And we know and we trust that UNIDROIT will be playing a major role in this effort. We would like to assure UNIDROIT and its Secretary General of the continuous support of Switzerland to the Institute. We extend our warmest wishes to the Institute and look forward to today's proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the ambassador, distinguished ambassador of Greece. You have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you, Chair. There are many things about UNIDROIT that should be mentioned in a day of celebration. Its intergovernmental character, combined with its independent status, makes it really unique. It contributed amazingly well to the adoption of various states of uniform rules of private law and in particular commercial law. It, directly or indirectly, drafted international instruments of primary importance, including international conventions. It paved the way for the diffusion of critical principles. It promoted substantially the acceptance of international arbitration. It maintains a world-renowned library and has an impressive electronic presence in law data. It has imposed itself to a wider public through organizing successful events. However, since my country, Greece, has a specific and I think fully legitimate interest on protection of cultural property, I would like here to praise the role of UNIDROIT in this field, as demonstrated through its two essential contributions. The first is its contribution to the work of UNESCO. As an indication, I would like to recall the UNESCO UNIDROIT model provisions on state ownership of undiscovered cultural objects, which constitutes a joint response of the two organizations to a growing need for standardization of the definition of state ownership of cultural objects yet undiscovered, as well as a very important innovative tool to guide and assist the relevant national authorities and legislative bodies in establishing state ownership over property of unearthed archaeological objects. Moreover, UNIDROIT's interaction with the international art market in view of improving practices in various areas of expertise, such as provenance, investigation, ethics, and procedure of restitution, proves to be of paramount importance. The second important UNIDROIT contribution in the same field is the 95 UNIDROIT Convention on Illegally Exported Cultural Objects. The problem of illicit trafficking in works of art was known. However, national laws on the matter differ widely, and this diversity is put to good use by traffickers, as is the limited territorial scope of the export bans set in place by individual states. The steps taken by one state to protect its works of art are not applied by other states, no more than are their fiscal, penal, or administrative rules, unless interstate agreements have been concluded to the contrary. The recent dramatic events, such as the intentional targeting and destruction of cultural heritage in areas of armed conflict in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere, as well as the side consequences of this destruction, namely the looting of antiquities and the illicit trafficking, a trade in the illegal market, including sales through internet, made even more clear why the protection of cultural property seems to be more timely than ever, and make even more important the twofold approach of the UNIDROIT Convention on Illegal Exported Cultural Objects. Among the principles established by this convention, I would like to emphatically underline the principle that the possessor of a cultural object which has been stolen shall return it. As simple as that. And is clearly stated the rule. And this rule, beyond any possibility of its interpretation, makes a difference. Another principle, the possessor has the burden to prove that he exercised due diligence when acquiring the object. If he so succeeds, he shall be entitled to payment of a fair and reasonable compensation. Greece, being a country with a significant cultural heritage and as a consequence extremely affected by the illicit import, export and transfer of ownership of its cultural property, highly appreciates the added value of the revolutionary, if I may use the term, principles established by the UNIDROIT Convention. Being one of the Convention's contracting parties, Greece is doing its utmost for raising awareness at the national level with regard to its proper implementation. Furthermore, my country makes systematic use of the model legislative provisions of undiscovered cultural objects, a common achievement of UNESCO and UNIDROIT. Even if we could forget the rest of the enormous work of UNIDROIT, I think that these two contributions alone would be enough to guarantee forever our appreciation to UNIDROIT. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Greece, and now I give the floor to the distinguished ambassador of Spain.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée et du Conseil, Monsieur le Secrétaire général, tous mes collègues ont bien établi les mérites de l'organisation. Je ne veux pas me répéter, simplement je désire dire que mon pays se joint à la félicitation de cet anniversaire et du magnifique travail que UNIDROIT a mené pendant toutes ces longues années. Mon pays était un des premiers à ratifier le statut fondateur en avril 1940, mais je crois que le meilleur hommage que je peux faire aujourd'hui est de dire comment UNIDROIT influe et a de l'influence sur la législation espagnole et sur notre jurisprudence. Le Code civil et le Code de commerce espagnol ont été changés il y a quelques années et enrichis en 2009-2013, et la commission de codification de mon pays a eu en présence constante les principes, les règles et même le soft law d'UNIDROIT, et cela d'une façon très marquée. Quant à la jurisprudence, je tiens à dire que dans plus de 500 décisions des cours espagnols, tribunaux provinciaux et notre Cour de cassation et le Tribunal Supremo, les principes d'UNIDROIT ont été clés dans les décisions et dans les résultats de ces textes de nos tribunaux. Et finalement, je tiens à dire que dans cette enceinte indépendante, le monde de l'académie, des gouvernements et des experts internationaux est mélangé. De notre côté, nous avons un groupe de travail, une commission dans laquelle, dirigée par le ministère des Affaires étrangères, chaque fois qu'il y a une législation à faire ou une décision à prendre sur le droit privé, aussi bien civil que commercial, les principes et les textes d'UNIDROIT sont étudiés et sont tenus en considération. Je crois que c'est le meilleur hommage que mon pays peut faire à cette organisation qui a été pour nous cruciale et dont nous espérons continuer à contribuer avec votre aide, Monsieur le Secrétaire général. Merci.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Spain, and I give the floor now to the representative of Pakistan.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me convey the warmest congratulations of the Government of Pakistan to UNIDROIT on its 90th anniversary. We appreciate the tireless endeavors of the Secretary General and his team towards furthering the organization's objectives. We also pay tribute to all those who have worked tirelessly towards the Institute's success since its inception over the years. I would also like to express our appreciation to the government of the Italian Republic for its holding the Institute and its support to it. The accomplishments of the Institute over the last 9 decades of its existence stand out even more prominently when viewed in its proper historical perspective. It has worked through difficult times, and in today's world, it faces numerous challenges. UNIDROIT, over the years, has been working in fields as diverse as arbitration, banking, capital markets, cultural and intellectual property, insurance, international sales, movement of persons, and natural resources. The Institute has prepared over 70 legal texts. Many countries have benefited from these in preparing their national legislations. Its work has also served as the basis for international instruments adopted at international organizations. The Institute helps developing nations better integrate with the rest of the international community. It has been extending its expertise and technical assistance to developing countries to help them not only draft their national legislations, but also harmonize them and coordinate these with international law and practices. The Institute has been granted observer status by the UN General Assembly. We are confident that positive consequences for the Institute would flow from its observer status. And the Institute has also served as a research center for a broad range of researchers. It has a rich library, 450 legal periodicals, and one thing we must realize that the Institute also has a research and a scholarship program which has benefited 300 research scholars from over 60 countries in capacity building. Pakistan joined this institute in 1964. We have been supporting its initiative and activities over these years. We attach great value to UNIDROIT work in the field of agriculture. We welcome the release of the Institute Legal Guide on Contract Farming in July 2015 and are satisfied to note that work on its dissemination, particularly among the smallholder farmers, is underway in Pakistan. Mr. Chairman, we believe that its unique status as an independent international organization bestows upon the Institute a crucial future role. Its independence and distinct mandate enables it to undertake its work free of geopolitical considerations and compulsions. I am convinced that the relevance of the Institute's work would continue to grow with the increase in globalization, spread of modern technologies, emergence of new means of communications, rising movements of persons, and surge in financial flows. We look forward to continue working with the Institute and wish it success in its future endeavors. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished Ambassador of Pakistan, and now I give the floor to the distinguished Ambassador of Germany.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be able to join you in celebrating this milestone today and to congratulate UNIDROIT on its 90th anniversary, speaking both for myself and on behalf of the German government. When UNIDROIT was gifted to the League of Nations by the Italian state in 1926, surely nobody imagined that after the League of Nations was dissolved in 1940, the organization would be reconstituted as an independent international organization and over the course of the next 90 years would establish itself as one of 3 international organizations worldwide that focus on the harmonization of private law. As the middle child, with the Hague Conference as the oldest sibling and UNCITRAL as the other one, UNIDROIT has taken an astonishing path. It began as a rather academic institute and has become an organization that prepares, monitors, and follows up on international law agreements and on principles, model laws, and other forms of soft law, and has thereby acquired vital significance for the harmonization of legal norms worldwide. I would like to draw attention to two instruments which, in Germany's view, document the commendable activities of UNIDROIT for the worldwide harmonization of laws in a particularly enduring manner. First, the UNIDROIT Principles for International Commercial Contracts have been a success story enriching the legal world for more than 25 years. The world's most renowned professors of the law of obligations, including distinguished German commercial law experts, drew up principles relating to the most important legal institutions of general civil law, the law of obligations, and contract law, which have since also been translated into numerous languages and continue to be supplemented by further editions. The principles are not only an excellent description of the common foundations of global contract and obligations law, they have also served as a model for the reform of civil law in many states, have been incorporated into the reflections towards a European contract law, and will surely point the way forward for many future reforms as well. The second major success story is the Cape Town Convention on International Interests in Mobile Equipment and the protocol thereto on matters specific to aircraft equipment. These instruments, with 70 and 62 states parties respectively, are among the most widely disseminated agreements in the field of economic law. They have created a new international interest which results in better collateralization of acquisition credit, reduced acquisition costs, and increased sales potential for aircraft. We hope that the other protocols on railway rolling stock and space assets will take effect as soon as possible, so that similarly effective collateral is available for such objects as well. Germany has always supported and promoted these instruments, most recently by hosting the diplomatic conference on the Space Protocol in Berlin in 2012. And in the world of practice, German banks already make extensive use of international interests based on the Cape Town Convention to finance aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, these examples alone show clearly that UNIDROIT's work to develop the law and to benefit the economy cannot be appreciated enough. And so, on the organization's birthday, I wish UNIDROIT, its president, secretary general, and all of its staff continued success in their important work and many more years in which to do it. Thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished representative of Germany, and now I give the floor to the ambassador of Argentina.
Mr. Chairman, Ambassador Mustafa Kamal, Mr. President Alberto Mazzoni, Mr. Secretary General José Angelo Estrella Faria, Excellencies, dear colleagues, it's a special honor to represent my country, Argentina, in this important session of the UNIDROIT General Assembly, celebrating the 90th anniversary of its foundation. Over the past decades, the Institute has played an important role in bringing together different law perspectives and traditions, and made significant contributions to the harmonization of private law. UNIDROIT's strength lies also in its broad scope and international reach, and has no limits on its global potential. The Argentine Republic, a member of UNIDROIT since 1972, has actively shared its challenging path and has always considered with the utmost relevance the strengthening of the Institute as a forum of developing high-quality, uniform rules, norms, and principles on issues of private law. My country has been active in UNIDROIT's bodies and labors. It has been a member of the Governing Council uninterruptedly from 1994 to 2013. Dr. Ricardo Lorenzetti, Chief Justice of the Argentine Supreme Court of Justice, was appointed by this General Assembly as a member of the Governing Council for the 2009 to 2013 period. Argentina has also participated in various working groups, such as those on substantive rules regarding securities held with an intermediary, or regarding the principle of transnational civil procedure, and also to the development of the protocol to the Cape Town Convention on matters specific to agriculture, construction, and mining equipment. The Argentine Republic has welcomed the Institute's work on the principle on international commercial contracts, the Convention on Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects, ratified in 2000, and on the Convention on International Interest in Mobile Equipment. We are also keeping track of the current work on the development of a fourth protocol to the Cape Town Convention on matters specific to agriculture, construction, and mining equipment, and the UNIDROIT FAO IFAD legal guide on contract farming due to our country's experience and tradition in agriculture, mining, and construction. The Argentine Republic has supported such efforts and initiatives of harmonization to the extent that these matters are not treated by other organizations in order to avoid the application of efforts and resources. In this sense, the cooperation with other agencies, particularly the High Conference of Private International Law and the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, is seen very positively. The recent joint proposal by the Secretaries of United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, UNIDROIT, and the High Conference on Private International Law on cooperation in the area of international commercial contract law, where the focus on sales is fully encouraged by our country. So I take this opportunity for renewing before this General Assembly Argentine's undiminished commitment to the future of UNIDROIT and for its contribution to our work. Mr. Chairman, allow me to close this remark by expressing our delegation's best wishes for the success of these symposiums. Thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Argentina. I give the floor to the representative of Australia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, distinguished colleagues and member state representatives. Australia became a member of UNIDROIT in 1973. Australia saw membership as a means to ensure that it would have a voice in the formulation of international conventions dealing with private law. As a member, Australia has contributed actively to shaping UNIDROIT's work program and to developing its instruments. Australia has been represented on the Governing Council by a succession of current or former officials of the Attorney General's Department, which is the national authority responsible for Australia's relationship with UNIDROIT. Australian experts have keenly participated in the development of a range of UNIDROIT instruments, including the Principles of International Commercial Contracts, the Convention on Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects, and the Guide to International Master Franchise Agreements. Two lawyers who had come from the Attorney General's Department, John Atwood and more recently William Bridie-Watson, have worked at the UNIDROIT Secretariat. Moreover, Australia has played a role in contributing to the organisation's strategic objective of broadening its representation in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, including by supporting the membership of Indonesia, which joined in 2009. Australia has recently reversed its relatively low rate of adopting UNIDROIT instruments with the adoption of both the Wills Convention and the Cape Town Convention and the Aircraft Protocol. This follows a close and continuous engagement of Australia with the organisation since joining in 1973. Australia looks forward to the continued success of UNIDROIT, which will no doubt be enhanced by greater exposure in emerging markets such as those in the Asia-Pacific region. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Australia and give the floor now to the representative of the Russian Federation.
dear colleagues, dear participants of the special session of the General Assembly, I would like to greet on behalf of the government of the Russian Federation all the participants of today's event. The development of international economic cooperation, which include international trade in goods, services, intellectual property, and trade-related international information, investment, scientific, and technological cooperation, plays an important role in the context of economic globalization and ongoing integration processes. International trade has long been one of the most important factors of economic development of any country. Overcoming administrative, economic, legal, and other barriers for cross-border movements of goods, services, capital, and labor is necessary to form a single coherent economic system. Yet the creation of uniform rules for the participants of the cross-border business relations cannot be achieved at the level of national legislation. It requires elaboration of international instruments, which include both international treaties and acts of soft law. Along with the preparation of international treaties in the course of direct bilateral and multilateral negotiations between states, elaboration of international instruments in the framework of international organizations plays a very important role. Such legal work can be, on one hand, may use the most advanced international expertise, either evolving practices and scientific knowledges, and on the other hand, it is free of the influence of soft and short-term political expediency. One of the most respected international intergovernmental organizations engaged in the preparation of international instruments in the field of private international law is undoubtedly UNIDROIT. The Russian Federation participates in several international instruments developed by UNIDROIT, including the Cape Town Convention and the Aircraft Protocol, conventions on international financial leasing and international factoring. Principles of international commercial contracts can be also named as one of the most important achievements of UNIDROIT. In a relatively short period of time, the principles became widely recognized and respected not only by the participants of international trade relations, but also by the international arbitrators and experts in the field of private international law. In this regard, I would like to state that the government of the Russian Federation appreciates the contribution made by the UNIDROIT in the development of private international law and wishes the Institute to successfully continue its fruitful activities. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation and now give the floor to the Ambassador of Serbia.
Dear hosts, esteemed excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express the sincere congratulations on the behalf of the government of the Republic of Serbia and also in my personal name to the representatives of UNIDROIT on this very important occasion, as well as to all of us member states for previous contributions to the work and development of the Institute. During the past very successful 90 years, UNIDROIT has repeatedly confirmed its significant role in the field of unification of the private law, as well as in the area of international commercial law, as one of the most important steps in the process of globalization of legal thought. As far as it concerns the activities in the recent years, it is necessary to stress out the very strong efforts of the Institute in the field of developing and improving cooperation with various specialized agencies of the United Nations. In that regard, it is very important to mention the significance of the cooperation with FAO and IFAT on the preparation and publication of the legal guide on contract farming and give impetus and similar initiatives in the forthcoming period. The Republic of Serbia, as an active member of international community in all fields, recognizing the importance of the unification of private law, pays particular attention on the implementation of international standards and regulations in this area, harmonizing its legal framework with current international standards. Accordingly, our government, recognizing the importance of the work of UNIDROIT, remains dedicated to continue with its contributions in accordance with the available capacities in the further work of the Institute. Thank you all for your attention.
I thank the distinguished ambassador of Serbia, and now I give the floor to the ambassador of Uruguay.
Good morning, dear colleagues. In name of the government and people of Uruguay, I want to congratulate the member of UNIDROIT, and I want to say that Uruguay is a country that more of a century participate in all the creation and development of international private right. The Uruguay has hosted the first Congress of South America of International Private Right, who was celebrated in Montevideo in the 19th century. Uruguay participates actively in all the conventions that the American Organization of States, the CDIPS, and has hosted the second and the fourth CDIP in our country. Uruguay participates actively in the Mercosur development of private right. We want to congratulate the UNIDROIT for its works and the contribution to the unification of private right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of the United States of America.
Good morning. I send apologies on behalf of Ambassador Lane, who very much wanted to be here this morning, but unfortunately his flight got delayed. Mr. Secretary General, Mr. President, fellow permanent representatives, and distinguished delegates, I am honored to represent the United States government at this special session of the General Assembly of UNIDROIT to commemorate the Institute's 90th anniversary. UNIDROIT is a pillar of the international community's efforts to facilitate private law harmonization and modernization. The United States has been a proud and active member of UNIDROIT since 1964. We strongly support the Institute's continued pursuit of its mandate and applaud its efforts to increase collaboration with other Rome-based agencies. My delegation would like to recognize and thank UNIDROIT, and particularly Secretary General José Angelo Estrella Faria, for his leadership and dedication. The United States places great value upon its membership in UNIDROIT and is proud of the contributions U.S. legal experts have made to the Institute's work for over 50 years. Throughout the world, the rule of law is central to the promise of a safe, free, just, and prosperous society. UNIDROIT's work advances these ideals in the private law area and helps to encourage the adoption of legal frameworks that promote growth. The theme you've chosen for today's meeting, private law, international cooperation and development, could not have been more appropriate to mark this occasion and to relate the Institute's work to the missions of all of the international organizations based in Rome. The rule of law and development reinforce one another, and their interrelation is essential for sustainable development at the national and international level. The United States recognizes the critical role that the rule of law, including private and commercial law, can play in helping the world attain the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. Specifically, UNIDROIT's work will contribute directly to SDG 16, which is dedicated to the promotion of peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, the provision of access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable institutions at all levels. The Institute's efforts to develop commercial law instruments, in particular, help to encourage economic growth by facilitating cross-border trade and investment. Reducing the transaction costs and legal risks that businesses face in operating across borders makes it easier for businesses to connect with each other and create jobs across the world, a crucial driver to achieving other SDGs, such as hunger eradication. UNIDROIT's work also contributes to the spread of the rule of law by developing instruments that can be used in all legal cultures and that encourage the settlement of disputes through reliable legal frameworks rather than through informal means. UNIDROIT has a remarkable ability to develop high-quality instruments in varied and often very technical areas of law, in part due to its unparalleled efforts to seek out and utilize expertise from all sectors and regions. I applaud UNIDROIT for this expansive approach. Let me also highlight UNIDROIT's ongoing initiative to contribute its private law expertise in support of global food security. I congratulate UNIDROIT for its collaboration with the UN Food and Agriculture Organization and the International Fund for Agricultural Development to produce a legal guide on contract farming. Contract farming helps increase agricultural productivity, improves the livelihoods of the rural poor, and may play a role in preventing rural exodus globally. This legal guide not only demonstrates how the rule of law is a central piece of sustainable models in agricultural development, but also provides a heartening example of collaboration among the Rome-based agencies to improve knowledge, investment, and the enabling environment for economic development. The United States encourages the Institute to build upon this work. With $90 billion annual investment gap in the agriculture sector of developing countries, there are not enough public resources in either developed or developing nations to bridge this sizable gap. Enhanced private sector involvement is the key to improving agriculture and rural development to ensure that the world's future agricultural needs are met. Thus, on its 90th anniversary, we look forward to working with you to expand the adoption of existing instruments and to craft new ones to address emerging issues for decades to come. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the United States, and now I give the floor to the Ambassador of India.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of India, allow me also to take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers of this international symposium to commemorate the 90th year of UNIDROIT. As a member of this institute since 1950, India attaches great importance to the work of UNIDROIT. The institute's primary aim is to coordinate and harmonize private law of states and to prepare for the gradual adoption by states of uniform rules of private law, and in this regard, the institute has succeeded in its principal sphere of activities in the preparation of uniform law rules. We are aware that since its inception, the Institute has prepared over 80-odd studies and drafts, principally relating to the law of sale and kindred matters, the law of documentary credits, carriage of goods and passengers by sea, air and road, civil liability, the law of procedure, and the tourist trade. Diplomatic conferences have adopted several important conventions drafted by the Institute, such as the 1964 Hague Convention relating to the uniform law on the international sale of goods, the Brussels Convention on the travel contract, the Geneva Convention on agency in the international sale of goods, the UNIDROIT Conventions on international factoring and on international financial leasing, and the UNIDROIT Convention on stolen or illegally exported cultural objects. The Convention on International Interest in Mobile Equipment and its 3 protocols covering air, rail, and space are of special interest as well. It is also worth mentioning that UNIDROIT has adopted the principles of international commercial contracts, which is a non-legislative means of unification of harmonization of law. We are hopeful that the achievement of the objective of unification of private law would continue also through other means such as research activities and strengthening the capacity building programs by taking into specific consideration developing countries' needs on a wide range of private law issues. I would once again, on behalf of India, affirm our support to the Secretary General and to the Institute in all their endeavors towards ensuring unification and harmonization of private law for the benefit of its member states, and I wish the symposium all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the last speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Colombia.
Thank you, Chair. The government of Colombia would like to express its most heartfelt congratulations to UNIDROIT and its remarkable management team on the celebration of its 90th anniversary. Colombia sees this celebration as particularly significant in today's global context, celebrating an institution whose raison d'etre is the international harmonization of the domestic laws that govern commerce, trade, and other private matters. In today's world, where globalization and unification are being challenged by divergence, schisms, and lacks of trust, we are proud to celebrate an institution whose mission is to facilitate the most primordial and ancient means of cultural and societal exchange. It has always been commerce, the advancement of our economic frontiers, which has brought exploration, exchanges, and innovation, that has stoked the fires that push our frontiers as mankind even further. Colombia is also very proud to celebrate a nimble and agile international institution that has managed to maintain itself relevant and in touch with its times, that has successfully kept to its mission to mold that most ancient and incalculably useful of human inventions, law, within the ever-changing world of international telecommunications, the aerospace industry, among many others. UNIDROIT is also an international institution that is every day increasingly in touch with its non-traditional members, so to speak. Middle-income countries, like Colombia, are greatly benefiting from innovative instruments like the Principles to Enhance Securities Trading in Emerging Markets and the Legal Guide to Contract Farming, among others. We are proud that an international seminar on this last instrument on contract farming took place in Bogotá on October of last year, in which the Secretary General and several international experts participated. To Mr. Estrella Faria and his stellar team of very dedicated people, we would simply like to say felicitaciones, gracias, and keep up with the good work.
Thank you very much. And here we come to the end of our general deliberation, and I want to thank all the speakers for their valuable contribution and the enlightening ideas and the engagement in our general debate. And by this, I give the helm to Mr. Alberto Mazzoni, the President of UNIDROIT Governing Council, to speak about or to be in charge of the organization of work after we finish the general deliberation. Thank you very much.